As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, Jon and Wai. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Rewind to SmackDown. 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 Rewind to SmackDown.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to SmackDown. I'm Jon Pollock, along with Wai Ting, and I thought of this great idea, Wai. It's the big, I would say, second biggest show of the year for the WWE, depending on how you look at things. So I think everyone's asking us, what shows are you guys going to go to? What WWE shows are you going to go to? And one of us is going to attend a show from WWE over the next week. I think we should do what WWE did, and we should wait until the final 10 seconds of the show to find out who is going to what show.
Wow, okay.
And then we'll go off and end the show on the least dramatic note possible.
Okay, well. Hello?
Doesn't that sound exciting? I was waiting for your great reaction. How are you?
I'm good. Very well. Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to recover from the final 2 minutes of SmackDown and wondering what the hell I was watching here.
Yeah, as long as I think you don't try to run me over with a car or something. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Doing all right, Jon. How are you?
I'm doing swell. I'm all set for the next 7 days of insanity. I'm all ready. I've been doing push-ups. I'm ready. I've got my my note-taking skills ready. I've got my pens all ready to go, Wai. My stopwatch is all set.
Awesome.
I'm ready to go.
All right. Let's do it. Let's dive right in.
Let's dive right into things, everybody. Very busy week. We went through all of the shows that are coming up this week. There are as they say, plethora of them coming up. Some highlights for you. We're going to have G1 shows coming out on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Saturday, on Sunday, and next Monday. Wednesday's show will be a free show, so you'll want to check that out, even if you're not a cafe member, which at this point, you're missing out. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, those will all be Patreon shows, including Saturday, where WH Park will step into the post office for the very first time. I cannot wait for WH. He has arrived safely in Toronto. I can confirm this, and we'll be meeting up with him on Wednesday.
At the OWE event, yeah. Look forward to seeing that show, and if any listeners are there, please say hi.
And then other highlights this week, we've got the British Wrestling Experience coming out Wednesday. Mark Ramundi will be joining us on the Cafe Hangout Thursday at 3. And then NXT TakeOver post-show on Saturday night. SummerSlam post-show on Sunday night. For the SummerSlam show, we'll be doing that one live for our Double Double Plus patrons. So there is so much stuff to check out. Go to postwrestling.com, and tons of bonus content this week as well up on the Cafe. But Wai, the big one, it's Sunday. We are sold out. Post Wrestling live in Toronto at the John Candy Box Theatre, happening in downtown Toronto, 99 Blue Jays Way. We got to go check out the space today, and we are all set to go for Sunday. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Pleased to announce that there will be alcohol served for purchase at the event, so you can. Oh God, I anticipate.
We'll be way funnier than if you have a few drinks.
Yes, and
you'll be totally loaded by the time you go to SummerSlam then.
Well, isn't that the goal, as always? But we've been told specifically for people attending to make your way to the Blue Jays Way entrance and not the one on the other side of the building, which is the Second City proper. What you're looking for is the Second City Training Center entrance, which on the third floor exists the John Candy Box Theater. So if you're getting into an Uber or something, simply, I would say punch in like Wayne Gretzky's, or Second City Training Center, which is on the on Blue Jays Way again. So make sure
the theater is it's on the third floor. It's wheelchair accessible if you need that. So third floor, 99 Blue Jays Way for those who have tickets and are coming on Sunday.
Yep. And again, we'll have some very limited merchandise for sale. A couple of T-shirt designs, one of which is an exclusive design from Robert Pearson, which you can find on our Instagram, our Twitter, all that good stuff. Only 30 of these printed, so get there early if you want to get one in your size.
And I am going to call this what we have, a no bullshit sellout. That means we thank all of you, but if you show up on Sunday trying to get in, like, there is no way. We have been told we are completely full for this event. We have no tickets to spare. So thank you to all of you that are coming on Sunday. And if you are not coming, if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, this show will be coming out next week, correct, Wai?
That's right, yeah. We're going to release the audio up on for our patrons, and we're going to try to get our hands on some video that we'll put up there as well for people who can't be there in person.
So lots of stuff going on in Post Wrestling Land this week. Saturday from 1 till 5, Braden and Davey are going to be at the Wide Open Bar at 139A Spadina Avenue, getting ready for TakeOver with their Up Next tailgate party. That too is sold out, so I don't even know if Wai and I can get into that one. Sunday we've got the live show, and then next Monday night it is a trip down memory lane as we will be doing a screening of Raw at O'Grady's Tap and Grill, 171 College at McCall, right by Queen's Park subway station. You do not need any tickets to get into this. It's first come, first serve, but based on the response, I think that our area is going to fill up, so you may want to get there a little bit before 8 o'clock when Raw begins. So should be a lot of fun. We have secured an appearance fee for Wai Ting. He is coming. He does not come cheap, and I am so honored that we've got Wai Ting in the house, that we've got Braden popping in. W.H. Park will be there. Mike Murray will be there. Greg Oliver will be there. Who knows who else will stop by, but it is we're looking forward to this, and Raw will be on in the background as well.
Well, happy to be there. Happy to enter those hollowed halls of O'Grady's once more. I don't even remember what it looks like. What would you recommend on the menu?
The chicken wings were always very good there. That was always my go-to.
Do they have a wing special on Mondays?
They used to. I haven't been there in 10 years, so I cannot confirm what they have on Monday nights now. But that will be my go-to, is just for nostalgia purposes, getting the wings. So
have chicken wings with John Pollock. I mean, what a draw.
Chicken wings with John Pollock as I try and pay attention to Raw, because, believe it or not, Wai and I have to do a show afterwards.
Yeah, we're not going to be that much fun, actually. We'll try to be, though. In addition to that, one last plug, and that is for our ongoing sale at the Post Wrestling Store. You all have less than 1 week to take advantage if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron. 20% off of all items, including our hats, which I don't know if I'll be discounting again anytime soon. Maybe not for a little while, because we don't make that much from them when they're discounted. So we're going to keep this going until next Monday at the end of the G1. So take advantage while you can.
Mr. Honesty, Wai Ting. So yes, check that out. Store.postwrestling.com. That sale wraps up next Monday, as does the G1. When that flag gets waved inside the ring after the G1 final, that's it. That is the signal. The sale is over. So don't miss out this final chance for you to nab something at a cheaper rate. So check all of that stuff out, and yeah, we'll have tons of coverage this week. I'm going to try and get stuff up of the shows that I'm going to live. We're also going to have Benno doing some reports from abroad. He's going to be covering the Ring of Honor Summer Supercard show on Friday. He's also going to be watching the Game Changer Wrestling show, Escape from LA. This was the card last year where Marco Stunt became an overnight sensation. So they're back this year in LA. And are you guys surprised that Game Changer didn't make the trip up to Canada for this one, Wai? Because I think Game Changer, I think that would have been one of the big non-WWE shows of the weekend. I think it would have rivaled like the interest level for just about anything.
Well, I mean, in their case, I wonder how much
it's obviously a very expensive undertaking to get your whole crew up here to Canada. I'm sure there were restrictions of why they decided not to, but I think that would have been like a hot wrestling show in town.
Well, for sure, but again, with the dollar, with visas, perhaps. Although I feel like the opposite is like Americans working in Canada might be a little bit different, and maybe a little bit easier than Canadians working in the U.S. But I'm sure like all of these things maybe played a factor in their decision, and maybe they wanted to stick with the sure thing, and LA was the sure thing.
And looking at their business that they'll do on Fight TV, regardless of location. I mean, it'd be interesting to see like what money they make at the live gate versus what they're making on pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
As they seriously have a good following now as well. And an update from our discussion last week about Joey Janela. He did an interview with Fightful, and yes, his contract starts with AEW, but he will be doing Spring Break next year.
Awesome. Great news.
Yes. So it looks like he will have the ability to do some GCW shows. So let's go into some news items first. Just a quick thing here on the Raw number. They did 2,473,000 viewers Monday night for the Go Home show, up 6.5% from the past week. This was one of their better numbers of the summer. Decent from start to finish. They actually increased. It was very small. It was 1% over the course of the show, but up nonetheless from last week. And maybe that was just the overall interest in SummerSlam. Maybe that was the tease of a Goldberg appearance, which I think a lot of people were expecting. It was up this week at a decent number. So we'll see how that holds up next week, coming off of SummerSlam and what they do at the show on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty, at times decent show, and I think I wonder how much the show long mystery or the various mysteries, I suppose, with Roman, and then
the Roman thing might have helped. Like those mystery angles typically do have some interest, some staying power, and they had clearly a really elaborate reveal set for Tuesday's SmackDown, which we will get into. But I guess the big news of the day was AEW announcing where they would be taking their show for weeks number 2 and 3. So on October the 9th, they are going to Boston to the Agganis Arena. And then the following week, on October the 16th, they're going to to Temple University, where in Philadelphia, where they're going to be at the Liacouras Center, which is a venue, both venues that TNA has run in the past for pay-per-views. In Philadelphia, that's where they ran Lockdown in 2009 and then Bound for Glory in 2011, which was the Hulk Hogan versus Sting match that they built up for forever. So that is where they are going. No West Coast show, like I predicted, but we did get these two. And yeah, it looks like for the first 3 weeks, at least, they're largely staying in the Northeast.
And I do really think it's more of a logistical, like cost-saving measure, or maybe just a matter of convenience to have to not lug your all that gear from one end of the country to another. I think this is how WWE tends to do things, and it makes a lot of sense that they would stick around this vicinity and maybe work their way across the country from this point. Yeah,
so the venue size, if you're curious, in Boston, the venue they're running, it's got a listed capacity of 7,200, which this does not take into account like production kills that they're going to have, which will kill a lot of seats in that. I would imagine maybe they'll have maybe it's scaled for around 6,000, you would guess. The Liacouras Center is much bigger. It can hold 10,200, and I would figure they could probably fit like 8,000 or so in there as well. What do you think about the size of the venues? In particular in Philadelphia, the major arena in town is the Wells Fargo Center. That's where WWE just ran Extreme Rules. And for wrestling, that can hold about 14,000 people. Are you surprised they didn't go all in for the biggest venue in town, which, based on what I could find, is not booked that night?
I guess not so much, because I wonder, when they did sign this, I'm sure they had a lot of concerns themselves. Like the Elite mentioned on Being the Elite this week, they didn't necessarily expect to sell out in the first day. Maybe after seeing the result of those of the first event sales, maybe they would now be considering something like that. But I think it would have been a much more safer bet. We're talking the third week here. Maybe kind of the hype dying down. I feel like 7,000 is still very healthy. So I feel like it was probably the safer bet.
These are, if they sell these out, these are like, that's a lot of tickets to sell for a Wednesday night wrestling show. I mean, it's absolutely. I'm curious, if you are AEW, Way, what do you want right now, given the perception that they have of this hot sellout streak? Would you rather sell out a building with 8,000 people, or would you rather draw 10,000 to an arena that holds 12,000.
I'd rather the sellout. I think it's far better PR versus, making a few extra dollars off of something. And I think the perception of just being so hot that people can't get in, that to me is worth a lot more than those few dollars.
That was certainly, like, on a much smaller scale. I think part of the appeal of PWG for so many years at the American Legion post, like, yes, it was only, 400 people that they could fit in there, but it was it was the ticket to get. You could not get a ticket unless you were really on top of things to get to those shows, and it made them feel so in demand because it's so hard to get tickets, and that's sort of AEW's now doing it on such a much larger scale. But it's going to come the week where they don't fill it, and I think you're totally missing the mark if you paint selling, say, 7,000 in a 9,000 seat arena as some kind of mark of failure. Like, this is enormous, the amount of tickets that they are moving to their shows, and these buildings are not. These are still sizable venues that they're running.
Certainly, yeah. I do wonder, when like after the show comes out, I wonder how that might affect. I guess it really largely depends on the quality of the show, but I think they're still really banking on so much of the hype surrounding the product, because we don't know what it looks like. We haven't seen it. We don't know what the quality of the TV show is going to be versus All Out. I feel like maybe a lot of people are perhaps buying these tickets, only having seen their pay-per-view level quality of shows. After the TV show comes out, obviously, depending on the quality of the show, will that affect ticket sales?
They're going to be releasing the ticket information on Friday. That's just the information, not that they will be going on sale. And
they'll also be announcing their next location coming up.
Yeah,
soon.
they've got a. I don't know how much they're going to be able to keep doing these, like all these special. I think they're doing a smart thing. They're trying to make every single announcement feel special, every TV taping feel important, make the on-sale date its own event. It's working for them so far. It's just going to be trying to keep this up and be able to keep, is week 25 going to feel as special? That's going to be the challenge. Like, ultimately, they're going to settle into a bit of a pattern, and people are going to be. I think the biggest key is having these great blowaway shows that the word of mouth is out there and creating the impression that these are hard to get tickets, because I think that's going to trickle over, and I think they're going to do very well for these on sales for Boston and Philadelphia.
I think so too. I think it remains to be seen, like, where that kind of, hype will die down. And I think it's inevitable that it has to. I mean, we're talking a show every single week. I feel like it's really, really tough to imagine that they would sell everything, every one of those shows out. Inevitably, that hype will die down. But when?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm no longer hedging my bets. I'm expecting sellouts for these shows. It almost feels like when George St. Pierre would fight, or when John Jones fights, it's like, I'm not betting against him. It's just, I'll be wrong when I'm wrong the week that they don't, but I'm just expecting sellouts for these two shows coming up.
Well, maybe there'll be a Toronto date at some point.
I'm sure there will be. I have no doubt that Toronto, I'm sure, is on that list. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they make it up here. Now, what venue do you run in Toronto?
Well,
they're not running Ted Reeve Arena, and I don't think they should run the Mattamy Athletic Center. So you're looking at your options are the Ricoh Coliseum or Scotiabank Arena.
I believe they renamed the Ricoh, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. It's a new
like
Direct Energy building.
Coca-Cola Coliseum.
Coca-Cola Coliseum. That's it. You're right. So Coca-Cola Coliseum holds about 9, and wrestling at Scotiabank Arena is about, 12? 11 to 12 for wrestling,
like
typically?
Yeah, I mean...
What do you think they run?
I mean, again, I think if I were AEW, I would look at doing the Ricoh first. But Toronto's a hot market. I would save Toronto for a bigger show. A show on the level of an All Out or Double or Nothing or one of their other tentpole shows, because I think the demand would probably be that big that it would probably work for a location of this size. I don't know if I would do just TV in Toronto. And if it's a big event like an All Out, then I could definitely see Scotiabank Arena.
I think they'd sell at Scotiabank Arena for a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do really well for the TV when it comes here.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember the first time after all the years of Nitro, when they finally got here to Nitro, that thing sold out instantly in what was then the Air Canada Centre. And that was in 1999 by the time that, WCW, it was still hot, but not to the degree it had been a year ago. And it was like I remember that being a first day sellout, and I was able to get a ticket to that. And it was very, I couldn't convince any of my friends to go. And it was the most depressing wrestling show to go, where I just went and just sat with, there were just other people that I just sat with, and I bought my single ticket.
Oh, that does make me sad a little.
It was, you know what? It was the night after WrestleMania as well that year in '99. But I still had a fun time. It's like it's all wrestling fans, and there was that cool angle with Goldberg and Bret Hart with the steel plate.
For sure. Yeah, but
that's High Point.
But we're talking about WCW. That was what, 99 when that happened. Years after, I think the NWO peak and just the height of the Monday Night Wars. But AEW hasn't even had their first show yet.
But it's got all the buzz. It's the cool product. And at that time, WCW had a coolness to it because WCW did not come here. And here's Nitro, the show that had been the hot show for about 2 years at this point. Yes, it's past the peak, but you had all those stars that you weren't getting through the WWF that had connections to this city. And it's a different dynamic now with AEW, but they have... To me, they have that coolness factor that I think and you'd have so many people that would be willing to travel here to Toronto, I think, especially for a pay-per-view.
It's a coolness factor that I am a little concerned that will go away with more exposure. And with a weekly 2-hour show every single week, again, it remains to be seen how cool they will be able to continue to make this product seem 6 months into this TV deal.
Well, the goal of the TV is to expand your tent, and there's that many more people now that have not experienced going to these live shows that you're hopefully going to create new fans, and that's going to be the big question. Has it been this concentrated, hardcore base that has all these unlimited funds, or is it a much larger number that they're going to attract by being on TNT every Wednesday night? Obviously, TV, the goal is to, number one, to get paid for it, and number two, expand your fan base by that much more. And that's all going to be stuff that's going to be looked upon heavily this fall. But those are our next 2 dates for AEW on TNT. And I just wanted to quickly discuss this interview that our guest on the Cafe Hangout, Mark Ramundi, had with Roman Reigns this week for ESPN. He was promoting the 2K20 video game, and Mark got into several interesting subjects with Roman Reigns. The first one being his schedule this year, and it's been noticeable, the house shows that he has not been on. And he said that since WrestleMania, he has not been on all the live events. He brought up outside projects and also stating, quote, "We have to be smart and obviously not burn me out, but I feel good." And from there, they moved on to the subject of Jon Moxley. And Reigns went on to say that he disagreed with what Ambrose said about the creative process. He said, "I love the guy. I love him to death. He's my brother. And wrestling ain't going to stop that. On a personal level, me and that dude can hang out, have a beer or two, and just talk." And then he says that when it comes down to it, creative-wise, that's on you. Communication is communication. When you go in there and you talk to the boss, you got to let him know. He even made comments about the things I had to say, but that was in a different place. I was brand new. That being the suffering succotash line that this man is never, ever going to live down, that he had to use on television once. And yeah, you can see, these two clearly, they have their friendship, but the interview clearly rubbed both Rollins and Reigns the wrong way, and they're backing their company here against someone who is pretty vocal against it.
I think, to me, the takeaway from hearing this is that Roman is showing the world how to publicly defend your company without coming across like a bit of an asshole, like I think Seth Rollins has come across, trying to answer the very same question. I don't see really any type of backlash against Roman Reigns for the way he stated this, and I feel like Roman is completely justified in having this particular opinion. Of course he is. He feels, I suppose, that maybe for whatever reason, Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose was not able to communicate as effectively with the higher ups. And that's his feelings. I certainly there might be an element of, protecting the company in even a statement like this, but I would say it comes across as far less maybe condescending. Not that I even think the Rollins one was that condescending. But I think he handled it well.
Yeah, I mean, these were his honest comments. I think it's to the audience that follows both. I think it's really hard right now to really bag on Jon Moxley, who has just had this renaissance of his career this summer. And I mean, this is a Jon Moxley we never got to see in WWE. Like, certainly there were issues that affected him being this version of himself. And Reigns, to his benefit, I mean, he is someone that has excelled in that system and done very, very well. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend, like, if he had the option of where to go, I think he is very suited for that him and Rollins, like, they enjoy being part of that machine and they are happy to do all the stuff is asked about them. I'm sure a lot of it gets tiring at times, but they are in it for that. Whereas Moxley, you could see, like, he wants to be out just to be a wrestler and not necessarily part of that machine. And it seems like all three are probably in the spots that they should be right now.
Yeah, everything's great.
Everything is wonderful in the world of professional wrestling as friends talk about each other in media interviews. And the final story here, last week, Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful.com had reported that Bobby Lashley was dealing with an undisclosed injury, and Pro Wrestling Sheet had an update that he had a surgery to remove bone spurs, and Lashley is expected to be out until early November. So that answers the question of where Bobby Lashley has been, as he's been off TV since July 15th after the Battle Royal they did to determine, with Seth Rollins winning to get the rematch with Brock Lesnar. So Bobby Lashley is off the list of the assailants if Roman Reigns was doing his studying.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Cross them off.
One guy to cross off.
You could drive a car, though, with bone spurs. You could drive a forklift. Maybe that's
probably
the excuse. While trying to operate a forklift backstage, his bone spurs got in the way. While trying to drive a car, his bone spurs got in the way, and he almost killed Roman.
Hey, have you ever been a one-arm driver, just using the one hand? I'm a two-hander.
I'm a one-hander from time to time. Yeah, obviously when I have to, but if I'm like just coasting in a straight line, I'm definitely one hand out the window, like resting on the window with the other arm on the steering wheel kind of guy.
Final thing before we get into our SmackDown review.
Oh, no follow-up on my one-hand driving?
It scares me. I won't lie. I'm a little nervous with the one-handers.
I'm a very confident driver.
Yeah, I've been a passenger to some very scary drivers. You are actually not one of them, but others. There are times I have thought, "Oh my God, this is it." But I'm not the kind of person that is going to be vocal to the person either, which is to my detriment. I just sit there in fear as someone navigates through traffic. I'm just like, just pay attention to the road, and you know what? You've got a second hand for a goddamn reason.
Well, that's what the Ubers are for.
That's true. My update, everyone. The mouse is still at large. We have set out more traps. There has been no findings yet. I want to thank all the people that have sent me feedback, both publicly on Twitter and through direct messages, with tips, with different experiences they have had with mice. I'm going to catch this thing. I promise I'm going to catch this thing because it is now it has become the challenge. This is a real life video game for me, and I am going to prevail and find this thing somehow.
Good luck.
All right.
I'll
keep everyone updated. Yes. SmackDown.
Contest.
Oh, the contest, of course. Let's give some stuff away, Way.
Anytime okay. You want. I'm ready.
Okay. Let's roll. Let's go in. Let's find the cafe member. Yes, I was right, folks. If you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, not only do you get all these extra shows, but every Tuesday night, you have a chance to win a Post Wrestling prize pack. And the example this week of that lucky winner, that person's name is
Is that the word? What's the word? The magic word.
I said their name is, and that's where you read the name.
Okay. Congratulations to Pat Sigsworth. Pat Sigsworth.
Oh, congratulations, Pat Sigsworth.
Yo, from PEI, Pat Sigsworth. Awesome. Pat Sigsworth from beautiful Prince Edward Island, California. Davey Portman is in Halifax.
Wait. Prince Edward Island, California?
Oh, I'm sorry. Canada. I saw CA.
Okay.
I thought California. God damn. Yes. Beautiful Prince Edward Island. Anna Green Gables. That shit's great.
Have you ever been to PEI?
I have, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Drive or fly?
I don't know. Like, I was young. My mom took me to a lot of different places, and Prince Edward Island happened to be one of those places. They got like
Anytime I ask people about going to PEI, it's always, oh yeah, we drove there. It's an enormous drive to Prince Edward Island from Toronto.
I'm
Like,
sure.
look that stuff up. Like, that's, oh man,
I'm
a
sure,
long drive.
I'm sure a beautiful drive, though. You know, they've got like this bridge because it's an island, of course. They got red sand there. How awesome is that?
Damn.
What was this show on CBC?
Oh, dude, I was just about to make a Road to Avonlea reference, and you beat me to it. Dude, like, sometimes we're just at a different level of, like, simpatico. It's amazing.
To be fair, not much else I think of when I think of PEI.
Oh, wait, there's plenty going on. I'm literally looking up Toronto to PEI right now, how long of a drive this would be. What's your guesstimate of a drive?
Okay. I'm going to say 18 hours.
Dude, if you take the 401 East, it's 16 hours and 19 minutes, which is the fastest route. But if you go on the I-90 East, it is 18 hours and 1 minute. So let's go with the second option.
Fuck, I got it almost exact.
Yeah, you were off by a minute.
Amazing.
If you go here, 401 East, it's 18 and a half hours. That's insanity.
Well, you're not doing that.
Obviously, you're going to stop along the way, but seriously, dude, that's a lot of days just to get there.
Hopefully, you're not doing it in one go, and hopefully, you're not doing it one-handed. That's one that I would definitely use two hands for.
Like, that's probably like that's 2 days solid of driving if you're stopping over, and probably a good chunk of a third to get there.
Well, I'm sure you'd have a great time though.
Yeah, how long could you stay, and then you got to turn around and do it all again because you got another 3 days of your vacation is just driving on the way back.
Well, I mean, hopefully you have more than 3 days to drive all the way out to PEI. You can make stops in like Kingston, Ontario. That place is awesome. You can stop, I'm sure, in Laval, Quebec. That'd be.
You want to hear another stat?
What's that?
Non-stop flight, 2 hours, $384 round trip.
Kind of expensive, but okay.
That's called the John Pollock option right there. $384 in 2 hours. I'll see you their way.
Maybe that's an AEW future destination.
Yeah, does that rhyme with Kelly as well?
Wouldn't rhyme.
Did you watch the video?
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
Philly and Kelly.
That's a stretch of a rhyme.
That was not a rhyme. That was yeah. All right, let's get into SmackDown. Everyone's done with our jokes. The Little Caesars Arena, Detroit, Michigan. I gotta say, I was a much bigger fan of the Joe Louis Arena versus Little Caesars Arena.
Is it the same arena?
No, this is the new arena in town.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I mean, which tastes better? Sorry, I'm thinking of the snack, not the boxer.
Oh, you're thinking of Joe Louis. My God, you're in a different space right now.
I'm in a PEI time zone.
Charlotte Flair starts off the show. She says that everyone strives for greatness, but they don't have the genetics, drive, and determination to make it, so they lie to themselves, like Trish Stratus does. And when the industry changed, she opted to do something else and start a family and get a minivan. So apparently this industry took a stark change way in 2006, 9 years before these women were called up to the main roster.
Well, I mean, I guess at some point you kind of round up or round down. It all blurs together. A decade might as well be a year.
Yeah, as I recall, the women's division kind of fell apart when Trish left. I don't know if the agents of change had quite installed themselves into the WWE Women's Division in 2006 and 7.
That entire, I think, period has kind of been distilled into like maybe just a week or two. Like all of a sudden there was the Give Divas a Chance hashtag, and that was that.
Yes. As I always say, if you want to see the state of their thought process about women, watch Trish Stratus' send-off in September of 2006, and then watch 2 months later Lita's send-off at the Survivor Series that year. Mm-hmm. And that will tell you where this company was in their maturity level. Trish, she says, is jealous of Charlotte's success and was never as good as she was. The athletes today are superior than in the past, and she is going to shatter the dreams that Trish has of performing in front of her husband and children. And so Charlotte throws to her homemade highlight video. And as she goes to the highlight video, this must happen all the time, Way, in editing bays across the world. You go to one highlight pack, and then it cuts into a different highlight feature as we go into a feature on Trish's career.
Well, I don't think it was exactly a cut. To me, this looked like almost like a deliberate fade.
So, oh, man. So the editor double-crossed Charlotte.
Well, I have a feeling I think Trish has really been working hard at her After Effects abilities.
I guess so,
Trish did this.
Trish comes out, and she said that she played that video to remind Charlotte why she is here and why she can have these opportunities. And Trish admits, yes, I was dreaming of another match, and you are the embodiment of everything I fought for. And I want to prove to my children, I want to prove it to my fans, and to myself. And to quote Harley Race, there is no better place than performing under these bright lights. So Charlotte says, welcome to your nightmare, Trish. You will bow down to the queen. And then Trish slaps Charlotte. Charlotte takes a look at her and says, I'm going to make my money on the pay-per-view. And then she walks out.
I thought this was great. I thought Charlotte sounded good. Trish, I thought, sounded very good as well. There were strong lines written for both women. And I feel like they were able to effectively kind of make this feel like a dream match, certainly overshadowing either women's title match on this show.
I thought it was a good promo between these two. Better than last week's setup. More impactful than what they did on Monday. And I think ultimately it's, you're presenting a dream match, which in WWE means just don't screw this up. Just announce the match and do the bare minimum, because the audience is either going to be into it on Sunday or they won't be into it. And I think they're going to be into it. I think the crowd will be great for this. They're going to elevate this match, and I think Trish is in there with the best possible person to have the best match she can.
Absolutely. Yep. It's certainly a build that I think has benefited from not having that much airtime. And it was just really simple. It's Charlotte. Well, I say really simple, but I think it could have been simpler because we had to have Charlotte make the challenge and then Trish arrive in the town for no reason.
It could have had a better kind of premise to it. I mean, this isn't, people have compared this program to Tessa Blanchard and Gail Kim, which was set up for a long, long time on Impact. And then you couldn't have had a better payoff at the pay-per-view, which was, really the template. But I think a fraction of the audience has seen that program and that match that will be watching on Sunday and have seen this. So, to be honest, I don't have a ton of faith in WWE doing these long-term stories and then getting to a match without either just driving people past the expiry point. To me, I'd much rather too little than too much.
Or driving, period.
Oh, God. Yeah, vehicles need to be banned from WWE programming for a lifetime. Bill Goldberg's music plays and everyone goes nuts. They're like, oh, Trish stuck around and so did Bill. But the security opens up Dolph Ziggler's dressing room and Ziggler comes out and he does Goldberg's entrance. I think that this is the most I've kind of gotten into Ziggler because it feels like he's now in on what his character is and what it's not, more importantly. It used to be Dolph cutting these promos where you believed like he was just this natural complainer that honestly believed he was destined to be a main eventer. And now it feels like he has accepted, I am in this role. I know what my role is, and I can be a lot more loose now. And I don't know what it is, but it to me has, like, he's found where his slot is. And I'm not saying that he could have been higher once upon a time, but he's not there anymore. So I think he's kind of just embraced this. I think he realizes what his role is to just get killed by Goldberg. And I like this entrance part.
I think it's the fact that you're not seeing a Dolph Ziggler go for the WWE Championship. It's a Dolph Ziggler where he's just simply trying to build as much heat as possible so that we can see Bill Goldberg beat him up. And I thought Dolph did an excellent job in this entire show, in this entire program, really, of doing that one singular job. He is doing his best to be a mid-card heel who is ultimately going to get embarrassed. And I thought this entrance was great, again, benefiting from, I think, a lack of TV time.
So he comes out and he's supposed to take on Rey Mysterio. And Ziggler jumps Rey on the floor, super kicks him on the floor before the bell rings, and the officials are coming out to tend to him, including Pat Buck, who it was reported by Mike Johnson is now a producer with the company. He's been hired. Who had been running WrestlePro out of New York. So Pat Buck was out there, and Rey gets hit with another super kick, and then Ziggler says another legend goes down, and the nostalgia isn't enough. He ends the legend of Goldberg on Sunday. He's not next, but this Sunday will be Goldberg's last match. He's going to retire Bill Goldberg. Like, he's completely delusional.
Well, I don't think it's, it's very delusional, but as a character, he should say something like that. Goldberg was pretty much retired, and I don't think it's a stretch to think that if Ziggler, beats him up really badly, as I think the character should want to do, that it would be Bill's last match.
Nothing with Andrade on this show with Rey. Rey was pretty much, he was protected by not losing to Dolph, but he was just the setup guy for Dolph to get some heat on, I guess, Rey as a legend.
It tells me that they don't really have any plans for Rey and Andrade. I could be completely wrong, but Rey's role on this show was simply somebody for Dolph to beat up so that you would want to see Dolph get beaten up by another legend. It certainly doesn't feel like, coming off of this, that they were focusing on Rey as any type of interesting challenger for even Andrade.
Ali comes out to check on Rey and then goes after Ziggler, nailing him with a spinning heel kick and a suicide dive. And we went to the commercial and would come back with the match. They were also running local ads for Raw and SmackDown in Toronto, and they're promoting Rollins versus Corbin and Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans for Raw.
Okay.
Just running for tickets. And then SmackDown, they're promoting Kofi versus Orton and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Presumably dark matches, if they even happen.
Yeah. Card subject to change.
Ziggler versus Ali. Ali did the rolling facebuster, which he has done his entire WWE run. He does this every single match. But on this night, it was an homage to Sean Waltman, they stated. Ziggler then hits a big clothesline, and then he goes for the sweet chin music, and with Ali, it was an homage to Sean Waltman. Ziggler stole this from Shawn Michaels. Do you get like a certificate if you are paying an homage? Like, Sean Waltman signed off on this. It's like Donovan Dijak asking Taz for permission to use the Taz mission on Twitter, and Ziggler did not go through the requisite channels to use the sweet chin music, therefore it's stolen.
Yeah, I think you rent it, and you have like a card, like a library card, and you borrow it for a certain amount of time.
Does Reigns have to give back the spear while Goldberg's on the active roster?
Well,
the book is checked out.
Maybe they exchange it in between matches.
Okay. So Roman can use the spear. Goldberg can do the drive-by. They can trade.
Or whatever. Yeah. So Ziggler continuing to use the sweet chin music. The end result of all this has to be a match with Shawn, doesn't it? They're teasing it way too hard.
Well, Ali ducked it, and then Ziggler beat him with the sweet chin music in a minute 47. Yes, under normal circumstances, this is 100% you're being led to a match with Shawn Michaels, but I really don't believe it's happening. I think they're just doing this. I don't think they're looking at this as like, yeah, people are going to be led in this direction. They're just doing it as, well, this beats him doing the jackhammer.
Yeah,
like, shouldn't he have been doing Goldberg spots, or would those look too ridiculous?
I mean, they would look ridiculous, but at the same time, I think continuing to involve Shawn as heavily as they are, without a match to end at the at the end of it, I find really strange. Obviously Shawn is still involved in the story, and I think he's already given Dolph his comeuppance. He super kicked him, but the fact that
watching this, like, I felt like thinking afterwards that should have been the spot at SummerSlam. Do it after.
Sure. And they could still do it again, but then why do it on Monday? To me, like, Shawn super kicking him on Monday almost felt like Shawn was done with the program. But for Ziggler to continue using the Sweet Chin music, what they were calling the Sweet Chin music here, I feel like just further kind of reignites the Shawn tease that they really hit hard on Monday.
They recapped everyone trying to kill Roman Reigns. So Kayla did a sit down with Roman Reigns. And he said that he's been through so much this year, but he always knew what was going on and what was attacking him. But now he doesn't know who is attacking him. What did you think about this? Equating his leukemia battle to a hit-and-run attack and a forklift operator.
I think on the list of offenses involving cancer in storyline with Roman Reigns.
They've been so worse that this doesn't cross the line of tastelessness.
Yeah.
He says WWE has offered him personal security, but he's a man that does things himself. And this has affected his life. When Kayla asks, who do you think did this? He says, well, I know who it wasn't. It was not Samoa Joe. And he looks into the camera and apologizes that Joe's name was dragged through the mud. And he's got questions. And tonight, he's going to get some answers. And Kayla said, when? And he said, when there's 2 minutes left in the show.
When he apologized to Joe, you had this audience applaud. So, if babyfacing Joe was an intended side effect of this program, I think they've done a great job. I really hope that really is the intended side effect and not just something that, is going to be forgotten about, because I think it's a great opportunity to make Samoa Joe a fan favorite. I hope that's where it's going. I
could see a scenario where maybe Reigns confronts these two. Like, he's saying, like, I do all this stuff on my own. He's not asking for help, but he is down because of the numbers game. Mm-hmm. And Joe comes to his aid, and you can still keep, like, Reigns understands he does need someone's help, but he's not going to ask for it, and doesn't make Joe his friend either. He is pissed because Bryan and Rowan allowed him to be wrongfully accused. And I think you can have these two, like, begrudgingly come together. Kind of like Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. You know what you would call the team?
JoJo.
Exactly. I think also Roman sounds really believable in this type of setting. He's not overly angry or emotive. I don't think he's necessarily... He probably wouldn't be great if he was trying to be overly angry. So I find him actually very believable, rather than somebody who maybe tries too hard.
They re-aired the tribute piece for Harley Race, and then it's contender versus contender. Natalya versus Ember Moon. So you knew you weren't getting a finish here. Moon hit a sliding flatliner, and then...
Yeah. By the way, referee Jessica Carr is now regularly appearing on WWE TV. I don't know if I had noticed it prior, but she was not only the OBGYN, she is now regularly appearing as a referee.
I hope she goes on to become the most famous referee ever, so they can ask, what was your first appearance on the main roster? And she can say, I was the undercover referee in an OBGYN appointment where Maria Kanellis lost the 24/7 title as the first pregnant champion.
Well, when she writes her book many years later, I'm sure she'll have some really interesting stories. I don't know if it was her first appearance on the main roster, but anyway, it seems to be a permanent occurrence now.
So the announcers are talking about how Moon doesn't want to feel like a charity case where Bayley gave her this title opportunity. She wants to prove that she has earned this. which would have made. I wish they had that understanding last week before having her get pinned by Alexa Bliss for absolutely no reason now.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, okay, I think the idea was that if you're going to give Bliss and Alexa the belts, they need at least, a credible win. And what's a credible win but giving Alexa a win over, oh man, the challenger for the tag team, for the SmackDown Women's title. I mean, except that I think it could have been anybody but Ember.
Like, it could have been, for the sake of it could have just been Bayley and Naomi last week.
Yes.
Like, Naomi's doing absolutely nothing.
I guess they have so much. Well, they needed to get Ember on TV in order to heat her up, but boy, did that help her.
Did they heat her up. Yes.
And also this segment, I would say the same thing. So, unfortunately, Ember just seems to be an odd woman out, and therefore she's been taking all the pins despite being the one challenging for the belt.
They go to the floor. Natalya gets drop kicked into the barricade, and then she throws Moon into the apron, discus clothesline. The count is going. Natalya applies the sharpshooter on the floor, and they're counted out in 1:31. And Natalya will not release the hold. Bayley runs down to stop her. Natalya gets annoyed, shoves down Bayley, and she just leaves. And Bayley is checking on her poor opponent, Ember Moon.
Yeah, I mean, they only had a few minutes to build up both of these matches, and I didn't really mind the non-finish here. I thought Natalya's mean streak continues to be displayed. I appreciate the fact that this only took a minute and a half and not, I would say, 3 segments like we had yesterday. But boy, does Ember not look so hot going into that SummerSlam title match. She takes the clean pinfall to Alexa Bliss, and this week gets the shit beaten out of her by Natalya, so... That match, Bayley and Ember, certainly does not feel like a big deal at all on this show.
This match feels so goddamn cold for Sunday.
I would suggest them to just do it on SmackDown, honestly. It's just not... Or save it for the next pay-per-view. I just don't think it'll really get over.
This is a title match I could honestly see getting thrown on the kickoff show, given that they've got 2 hours. It doesn't mean a thing. I think they've done a very poor job with Ember Moon, who needed something because she has not been a push commodity. And I think it's Bayley, I think, had finally found her footing in this role as the champion. And I think the last month, it's just not a priority program, and it's just kind of fallen by the wayside.
It's unfortunately certainly been overshadowed by, Trish versus Charlotte as the A program for the women on SmackDown. So... rather unfortunate. I certainly would want to see Ember get another crack at a proper feud coming out of SummerSlam, so I hope the feud continues.
Then we had the Kevin Owens Show. He called out Shane, and Owens has been asked why Shane isn't putting his career on the line at SummerSlam, and Owens explained because with his last name, he can say and do whatever he wants, so it doesn't matter. But he's going to try and appeal to Shane's ego and challenges him to put his career on the line. Shane smartly says, no, why would I do that? And Shane says there's no shame in losing to the best in the world. And he goes over all the ways he can win. He could pin him. He could apply his devastating triangle choke. He could also get Owens counted out, or he could upset Owens so he freaks out and gets disqualified. All ways in which Owens would lose and then have to quit. Owens tells him to please stop this painful diatribe and tell Shane that despite all your stunts, you've got no balls. They're really on this kick of balls, Way.
A kick? I mean, they've been on balls, for years now.
Oh, my God.
Decades. They've all been all about balls. They named it a pay-per-view.
The subject of Heyman's promos about Rollins. I just feel the word balls.
They named a whole pay-per-view after balls.
Yes. Gone but not forgotten. Great balls of fire. They clear the ring to go fight, and then Owens takes one of the nice leather chairs and tosses it to the floor, and a piece of the chair breaks and looks like it just flew into the crowd because everyone just turned their head. It was like something at a Final Destination. Elias runs in.
Those fans probably got a really nice T-shirt afterwards.
I bet they did. Elias runs in. Shane attacks Owens. They brawl on the floor. Shane gets sent over the desk. Elias takes a stunner on the desk. And then Shane clips Owens' knee when he's not looking, attacks him with his punches, and then tips the desk over, sets up a chair against Owens' head, and then does the running sit-out drop kick. I was waiting for Shane to look into the camera and say, Shibata, Kenta, I invented the move. And he just slaps Owens over and over. And I guess a testament to Owens' growing popularity, Shane yelled, "You're over! You're over!"
Yeah, okay. Could mean that. You just gave me the mental image of Shane McMahon being in the G1. And how much I would love to see that.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Oh man, Shane McMahon Tomohiro Ishii match I think would be awesome.
As he's doing his little dance shuffle and Ishii just runs at him with a headbutt.
Yeah. Or Zack Sabre Jr., Shane McMahon, Battle of the Submission type of match would be great.
Oh, imagine Zack Sabre Jr. cutting a promo on the Republican family of the McMahons and their political ties.
Would be great. Would be great.
Not enough that I'd actually want to ever see this, but you come up with some interesting scenarios.
Anyway, was that it?
That was the segment. He just yelled at Owens, and Owens was left laying. It was just get the heat on Shane going into Sunday.
I actually thought this was all really good. The crowd reacted really strongly to everything that they did here. I continue to I'm not even joking. I think Shane is very entertaining as a heel in a role like this. When it comes to in-ring, maybe that's a little bit of a different story, but I think in segments like this, I find him to be incredibly effective, and he and Owens have proven to have excellent chemistry together as a heel and as a top babyface. It's been really helping Owens this entire thing. We'll see how they finish it. Why do you think that they decided to reveal the Shane stipulation now and not initially?
Well, they didn't add that to the match. I mean, that was not a stipulation that they added. They just brought it up and Shane said no.
Well, sorry, what I mean is why did they wait till now to announce that Shane would also put his career on the line rather than just simply making the match then for both careers?
I would imagine that Owens is going to win this and Shane isn't leaving. That would be my guess.
Okay.
And it's just a one-sided stipulation where if Owens loses, he's gone, and I expect Owens to win, and then maybe he beats him, and then Shane challenges him to one final match or something.
Didn't they announce that Shane had accepted or something? Or was it still just Owens' career on the line at the end of this?
Unless they announced something on the website.
I saw on the graphic, but okay, I could be wrong.
It says if Owens loses, he quits. That's, I think, what the graphic said, because they... Yeah, I don't see anything here. They haven't changed it, so it's just Shane. It's just Owens' career on the line.
Okay, I'm mistaken.
Which no one believes anyway. But
yeah,
you could do several things. I think Owens should win on Sunday. I think he's going to get an enormous response in Toronto, which good for him. And he could beat Shane, and then they could build to something like a Hell in a Cell, and then Shane does disappear, because I think that's ultimately where this has to go, where Shane is taken away from TV for at least an extended period after this feud with Owens.
Yes.
And maybe they just want to drag it into September. Then we had... So at this point, we are... it's 9:11 p.m. 9:11 p.m., and we have had 2 minutes and 18 seconds of wrestling so far away.
Sometimes you have a lot more, sometimes not. Yeah.
Sami Zayn comes out. He said he offered a gift to Aleister Black with a match at SummerSlam to unburden him of his hype. But Aleister has responded with silence. He locks himself in a room where he is safe, while you parasites talk about how cool he is. Well, the guy who picks fights doesn't want to fight with Zayn. And then Aleister's music plays. And I hear Aleister. And it looks like he's throwing his back out, but he's lying down for his entrance, announcing that the match is not happening at SummerSlam. It's happening now. And then he rises up into a standing position and walks down.
He cut a promo while lying on his back. Yeah.
The ideas they come up with this guy. Oh, my God. I was kind of disappointed by this. I wanted to see this at SummerSlam, and they just blew this off. Like, there was nothing left after this. Like, there's no way they're going back to this.
Not me. I was really grateful that they were continuing to, maybe trim some of the fat off of SummerSlam and putting it onto the TV, which I think it benefits a match like this. I'm sure Zayn versus Black on a pay-per-view would have been great, but I don't think they would have had the time. It would have done really well in front of the audience actually in Toronto, but I think by the end of the show, of a 7-hour, 6-hour show, you wouldn't have remembered this. So I appreciate that they're actually considering the length of that show.
Well, you take this one out, and Roman does not officially have a match. We've got 10 matches confirmed for Sunday.
That's great.
Which, when you think about it, if they do 3 on the kickoff, that's 7 matches in 4 hours. Great. Maybe 8 if they add Reigns.
That's more than enough.
Maybe they'll end early.
I don't know if they'll end that early. Maybe 10:30. I think everybody will be more than satisfied.
Yes. And, we'll look at that after. So, match starts. He drops Zayn with a kick to the chest and then does his backflip into the seated position. They go through a commercial, come back. Zayn is now in control with strikes. Lot of selling from Aleister Black. He comes back with kicks, sweeps him, hits a running knee, does a cabrata. The audience is into Black's comeback. He lands a flying knee, Black mass, and pins Sami Zayn in 5:53. And your winner, and I quote, the Dark Destroyer, Aleister Black.
Oh, is that it? Is that the new name?
The Dark Destroyer, not to be confused with the Bright Destroyer.
What was his previous nickname? You remember?
Oh.
Didn't he have one in NXT?
Tommy End. I don't know. I can't remember what they called him before.
The Dark Destroyer. Okay, whatever. It's better than the Dreadlocked Dynamo.
That's for which sure. Was thankfully dropped.
Yeah. Honestly, this was not much of a match. I guess if you're really looking forward to this one as, something special, it really was not. It was not the style of match that I think you would have expected from both men, like on an NXT, for instance. Not as good as Cesaro versus Aleister Black. Really just kind of something to put Aleister Black over, and it achieved, I think, that purpose at least.
I think it's just more impactful when you do this on the pay-per-view as opposed to this match that I think is just going to be completely forgotten. So I guess this guy just moves on to his next program now. It just felt kind of, case of, well, we don't have enough time for everything, so we'll move this to TV.
Mm-hmm.
But something they made adamantly clear that they did have time for, the return of Shelton Benjamin. The entire world had forgotten about this. So we have the interviewer off camera asking him if he has considered competing for the 24/7 title. He starts his answer by saying, well, and then his eyes just dart all over the room, smiles, and walks away. Are you still intrigued?
I mean, I have no idea where this is leading towards. I feel like we've kind of only been seeing these bits and pieces with like several weeks of gaps, so that you almost don't really care anymore. I do find it pretty interesting though. I hope that they have a conclusion. I'm not entirely sure that they do. I'm still somewhat invested.
You're very optimistic about wherever the hell. Hey, could it not be in theory? This guy could be cross-eyed, and you know what I wouldn't want to be doing if I'm cross-eyed? Operating a forklift or driving a car. Okay. Maybe this guy's eyes were just wandering, and it was legitimately an accident. Why wasn't he a suspect?
Well, it would be either him or the man with the bone spurs.
Yeah. One-armed driver or wandering eye Shelton.
Very dangerous.
Firefly Funhouse. We had a table full of candy after Huskus the pig had overdosed on chocolate. Bray says that Balor is not afraid of anything, and he loves that. And Huskus eats to cover for his insecurities, and Balor's courage is ignorance in disguise, because he invited the Fiend to his doorstep willingly, and we've hurt for so long, it's time for Balor to hurt. and the Fiend is coming for him. Let me in.
I like these. I mean, I would consider these a success simply if they were better than the original Bray Wyatt promos, and they are far better. But even, beyond that, I think they're just good.
Do you think they're going to do a full match between these two, or do you think this is going to be short?
It'll be really interesting to see how they treat the Fiend in a proper match setting. Will they play with the lights? Will there be music and all that stuff? How do they maintain the mystery? I think for that, for the sake of keeping the mystery, I think you keep these short.
Yeah, I feel it should be short for its most effectiveness, but I feel when you've got like a Goldberg match already on this, I think they're going to feel the need to do like 8 to 10 minutes with these two, and I don't know if that's a great idea, where they're going back and forth, and then Bray wins. So I'm interested to see how they pull this off.
There's no rule that says you can't have more than one, sub 3-minute match.
Yeah, I just don't think they will. I'm not saying that it would be my rule, because I think Balor trying to get in some offense, and then boom, he's hit with the mandible claw, and he's mysteriously gone. He's injured. Would be the way to go here.
I'm also looking for this to be like a pretty severe beating, for Finn Balor. Number one, to really kind of put this character over, but it's something that that should send Finn Balor away for a bit of time.
Chad Gable is warming up for what I don't know, and he puts down his.
He had no match.
He had nothing to do on this show, so I don't know what he was getting all set for.
Maybe it was 205.
It wasn't. He puts his band down, and Elias says, "You should get your bands away from my guitar." Now, the funny line would have been Gable saying, what if your guitar joined my band?
Yeah, that would have been hilarious.
Would have been funnier than this shit. He then says that he thought Chad Gable was a child and quotes Randy Newman, "Short people got no reason to live," and says that you must be this tall to talk to a star like him. Now, Elias is a decently sized man. It's not like he towers over Chad Gable. And he asks if they have a problem as he takes the guitar and leaves. So we've got Shelton Benjamin, who's following a fucking fly on the other side of the screen with his eyes. And then we got short Chad Gable. Some real dynamic characters here in the pipeline post SummerSlam coming your way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sure, yeah.
Getting labeled short by Vince McMahon, that is the mark of death.
It's unfortunate. Rather unfortunate.
Maybe he'll be off to Chad of Green Gables. Get as far away from here.
Oh, damn.
Then we had a feature on Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. Last week we heard from Randy. This week it was Kofi Kingston's response. And it's mixed with all these highlights of their feud from a decade ago. Kofi says he got here as champion in spite of Randy Orton, not because of him, after he was taking credit for it. And it's hard to stand out in this company, but he was starting to do that. And it included the angle that I had forgotten about that they did, where Randy Orton had some fucking race car. I can't remember the context of this. And then Kofi poured paint all over it and says that's not exactly how it worked out. And again, they show the stupid comments and him getting pinned after an RKO. And Kofi mentioned the rumors that Orton used his influence to hold him back. And he got frustrated because he was at a certain level but couldn't get to the next higher level. So he just kept grinding. And he wants to inspire people and use his influence to lift people up, whereas Randy Orton uses his influence to hold people down. And said it's vindication when he holds the title high above on Sunday. And he ends it by saying, "We'll see who the stupid one is." This was great.
Yeah, really well
done. These two video features, just air these back to back. I guarantee you'll be into this match. You only need to see these two video features. It was great. I think this has been one of the subtly better built programs for Sunday. Maybe, seriously, maybe the best built program at SummerSlam.
I don't think
I think it's really been simple and very effective.
I don't think it's been that subtle at all. I think like when it comes time to tell serious stories, through the use of video packages, they've been shown to be able to do that really effectively. And again, this is, I think, a program that has benefited from not having that much TV time to, overwrite something or overcomplicate or overbook anything. They stuck to the history. It's like this person hates this person because of this thing. And then they explained it again repeatedly through the use of really well produced video packages. And over the past couple weeks, like not seeing Randy or Kofi on TV itself has not really felt lacking. If in fact, like simply by showing these videos instead, it's made me more invested in this program. So I would love for them to continue to use this type of method whenever it's possible, when they have this type of depth of story and history to call upon.
Yeah, I just think that they had a story. They maximized it, and this has been really, really good build. I'm looking forward to the match itself on Sunday, so I think they did a really great job here. Big E and Xavier Woods versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan was the main event. Early on, Woods takes out Bryan with a tope con hero to the floor. They go through the break. Now Bryan's in control of Big E with his arm. Rowan comes in, drops Woods with a running crossbody. They double-team Woods for a long period of time. Rowan then tosses Woods into the steps and over the barricade. They go through another commercial break. Big E gets the hot tag. He's hitting all these belly-to-belly suplexes to Bryan before his knee is drop-kicked. Big E applies a stretch muffler, which really works given his build to use that move. And Bryan transitions into the label lock from the stretch muffler, which was a very nice transition. And Big E does the Rampage Jackson Ricardo Arona spot, powerbombing Bryan out of the triangle. And Rowan comes in, hits a running spin kick, blind tag to Woods. Rowan is down. Woods hits a flying elbow. Big E spears Bryan off the apron. And then Rowan finally uses the steps on Xavier Woods, and the bell is rung for the DQ. What'd you think of the match?
I really liked the match. I thought everybody was on. You could certainly count on the New Day. You could certainly count on Daniel Bryan, but I think Eric Rowan continues to feel really effective in this role as kind of the lone big man amongst, a sea of people smaller than him. He's working very fast, works really well with Bryan. Not necessarily, I would say, a match that I think, is a show. It's not one that I would say you have to go out of your way to watch, but I think for a TV show to cap off a main event, I thought it was really well done. Bryan has, been doing the whole mute gimmick lately, and he definitely stayed that way here. A real meanness about him that, he's no longer doing kind of like even the cute, I'm doing this for the planet type of character. He's been a much more serious character, and I think you can see why.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun tag match. I agree with you. I thought Rowan did his part very well in this match as well. So afterwards, they're continuing to beat down Woods and Big E. Rowan hit the Iron Claw slam onto Big E. Then we had the Busaiku knee to Xavier Woods. And then we cut to the back, and Roman Reigns is wandering around backstage. He goes into the locker room, and he kicks everyone out. They were more than willing to get the hell out of here. And who is left but Buddy Murphy? So Reigns has a sit down. I swear to God, how many people watching SmackDown, what percentage do you think had no idea who this guy was?
Buddy Murphy, yeah. I would say a healthy 40%.
I would say 30 to 40%. He was never identified, I believe. Like, I don't think that, I'm sure there are people that never watched 205 Live or NXT that would have no idea who this random man is. And Reigns sits down. He says he saw him last week in the footage, and he begins interrogating Buddy Murphy, who denies knowing who made the attack. And he said, even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you. So Roman proceeds to murder this guy. Now, this wasn't Impact Wrestling where he would have tried to waterboard this guy, but he beats the shit out of him, throws him over the table, puts him up against the wall, and Buddy Murphy just cracks, and he says, "It was Rowan." It's like, what? It was a hit and Rowan. And he says, Rowan and Daniel Bryan? And Buddy says, I only saw Rowan. And then we cut to Bryan and Rowan watching from the ring. Absolutely no reaction to this. And it just goes to Reigns. He's breathing heavy, and the show ended.
Yeah.
Tune in to SummerSlam and figure out what the hell's going on.
I mean, I thought they would make the reveal on this show and then we would get the match itself at SummerSlam, but it seems like they are kind of leaving you waiting until SummerSlam to even find out who it might be or confirmation about who it actually might be. And maybe even beyond that. So, I think following more of your suggestion from Monday, John, how did you feel about this?
I thought this reveal sucked. I thought this left SmackDown on a whimper. I just thought it was such a... Like, Monday, you left on a high with the Goldberg. This one was a polar opposite. And I got the sense going into SummerSlam, unless they announced something on the website, which seems very anticlimactic, I almost think like we're just going to get like some attack on Sunday. Like, I don't think we're even getting a match. Maybe it's just Reigns confronting them. Joe gets involved and it's some big brawl. Like, I don't even know if we're necessarily getting a match. Doesn't feel like it's ready for a match.
At this point, I certainly hope not, because I don't think you've built enough interest, and I think it'd be a bit of a waste to simply give that match away. I would actually have the confrontation on SummerSlam and just leave it at that. You know, drive people, build the match up with another month. Because I think an angle this big deserves a bit more TV time to kind of continue the feud. We don't know why Bryan or Rowan might have done what they did. You need TV time to really explain that before actually getting the match itself.
Do you think that this is an issue with like the timing of this angle? Like, you should have done this to peak for, you know, one of your top stars, if not your top stars, to have a prominent spot at SummerSlam? Or do you think it ultimately doesn't matter?
I would assume that if they timed it this way, I would assume that this was always the intent, and that they probably don't intend on them having a match. From the looks of it, that's what I would assume. I can't necessarily see this being the culminating angle and the visual to end off SmackDown with, you know, if the intent was to actually have a match, because there's no more TV time to announce that match.
Yeah, I just thought it's been a kind of strange summer of Roman Reigns and how he's been utilized. Like, certainly, I think a bit of a diminished role, like still there, still prominent, but it does feel as though, especially on SmackDown, he has taken a backseat to the Kevin Owens story. He has been not as focused upon, and I'm just kind of surprised that this is how they felt to best sell SummerSlam with Roman Reigns as one of your top people. That he's not really, to me, any kind of difference maker if you're contemplating getting the show or not. I don't think you're deciding based upon Roman Reigns.
And I think that's it. I feel like maybe they feel they already have a strong enough show without Roman and Bryan being attached to it in any type of meaningful match to, you know, attract people to want to watch this show. Maybe they're right. You know, certainly the promise of a Roman versus Bryan match will add a lot to the show, but I almost feel like at this point you might as well just save it for the next pay-per-view, and I think that's fine. I think it's certainly an angle they are giving a lot of airtime to, and they're taking very seriously. So it's set to be a big program, but I just don't sense that it'll really peak and culminate at SummerSlam. That's all.
So here's the quick lineup for SummerSlam of what they have announced. Brock and Rollins for the Universal title. Becky Lynch, Natalya, submission match for the women's title. Bayley and Ember Moon for the SmackDown women's title. Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton for the WWE title. Owens versus Shane McMahon. If Owens loses, he's quitting. Finn Balor versus The Fiend. Bray Wyatt. AJ Styles, Ricochet for the U.S. title. Dolph Ziggler versus Bill Goldberg. Trish Stratus versus Charlotte Flair. And just made on 205 Live tonight, Drew Gulak versus Oney Lorcan for the Cruiserweight title, which could be a hell of a match.
I think a lot of these matches could be great matches if they're given, I think, the space and the style for them to take place. Like AJ versus Ricochet, I think you would have higher expectations for even this time around. You know, but then we also have a number of what I would call spectacles in Ziggler versus Goldberg, which I think could be very satisfying if kept short. Even Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt, I consider more of a spectacle type of match. Stratus versus Flair, I think, has a lot of people's interest to see what type of match Charlotte Flair can get out of a Trish Stratus. what does Trish Stratus look like inside a singles match environment in 2019. Brock versus Rollins, I mean, that really has kind of been fucked up as far as
Hey, Seth was cleared today. After all that, he's cleared.
Yeah, like I thought the angle was really great last week, but I think the follow-up with Rollins yesterday was really not that great. So, but the match could still be really interesting. You have an injured Seth Rollins going in there. Kofi versus Orton has been done really well. And then you've got, your women's matches and Becky Lynch versus Natalya, which is a submission match, could be interesting, but my hopes really aren't honestly that high for the quality of it. But Becky Lynch will get a great reaction in Toronto. Bayley versus Ember, to me, is probably the coldest match on this show. And I'm even...
I don't think anything's even close, to be honest.
I'm including Gulak and Lorcan at this point. I don't even know.
I am too. Dude, I love watching Oni Lorcan. If he gets like 15 minutes on the kickoff, that's going to be great. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a really good match.
Yeah. And Owens versus Shane, the crowd will be hated for that because it's Kevin Owens. And I think Shane still, is a bit of a spectacle attraction. So, yeah.
Can you remember a pay-per-view where the amount of matches that they've teased that they have not announced as of the go-home show? We can go through Reigns and Bryan, Nakamura and Ali, Anderson and Gallows against The New Day, Cedric Alexander against Drew McIntyre. I guess we gave away the women's four-way and Sami Zayn and Aleister Black, so those were kind of delivered upon. But man, there is a lot of programs in flux, and I guess you could fill out this card once they time out the show, and maybe some of those matches end up. Do you see any of those? Let's throw out Reigns and Bryan because we kind of discussed that already. But of the other options, do you envision more being added to this current 10-match lineup?
If they simply want to fill in the airtime, I could certainly see them putting something like Nakamura versus Ali there, or something with the tag team, the men's tag teams.
But Ray and Andrade would be in that list too.
Sure,
mention that.
But I really do feel like for a lot of these programs, it would be better to hold off, give them the proper airtime, give them the proper build before setting them up for the next pay-per-view.
They have a whole pay-per-view of backup matches.
Great. I think that's the way it should be, honestly, rather than, rerunning a lot of this stuff. Like, split the show in half and like give me half of it the next month. What is the next pay-per-view?
Oh God, they always
Clash of Champions.
Clash of Champions,
which is September 15th. So
you got a month.
1 month, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they can keep a lot of those programs. Certainly, like Bryan versus Rowan, if they don't do it on SummerSlam, I think a month's build would be fine as like that show's main event. You got to save something for that.
They got Clash of Champions, and then 3 weeks later, it's Hell in a Cell, and I could see them dragging Owens and Shane all the way to Hell in a Cell, and they do the rematch in Hell in a Cell.
Sure, yeah.
I can see that happening.
And then several weeks later.
Or to your point, stretch that one out. They don't have to have anything at Clash of Champions. Yeah. Do Owens and Shane at Hell in a Cell and split up some of your big matches. Like, it doesn't have to be every single big star on every show in the network era.
I mean, I would kind of like that. And you can also really spread it out amongst your TV even. Like who's to say you can't do some of these main events on television? And I think TV will ultimately, at this point, prove to be more important in many ways than your B-level pay-per-view.
God, you know what I just realized is that they are going to debut on Fox, and 2 days later, they have a pay-per-view. So that SmackDown debut on Fox is technically the go. Like, that's going to be one show where I don't think the pay-per-view is even going to be any kind of focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an afterthought. So,
really
I didn't even realize the timing of that. So that week, we've got AEW's debut on TNT, SmackDown on Fox, and then a pay-per-view that weekend with Hell in a Cell. So they got a lot going on.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the feedback thread and see what everyone had to say about tonight's show.
And after the feedback, John and I are going to quickly go through some of the events in Toronto for SummerSlam weekend.
Yes, we'll take a look at the first couple of days of what's going on in and around the city. So tonight's SmackDown fell below Raw, a 5.1.
Okay, interesting.
Brad from Halifax writes, SmackDown flew by. There were so many things, like including the build for Randy versus Kofi, Shawn versus Owens, and Bayley versus Ember. I even liked the little tease that we might actually get to see Chad Gable wrestle on TV. The high point was the whodunit with Roman. Hope we get a big payoff way down the road. My only complaint is, wasn't tonight kind of your payoff?
Well, I think Roman getting his hands on the actual attacker is the payoff.
All right, but the mystery is kind of gone.
Well, it's not been confirmed. I mean, and they're kind of leading you to think it's Rowan, not necessarily Bryan, who I think most people are assuming to be the attacker.
Maybe Buddy will apologize and say, no, you were choking me. I was saying, Roman, stop choking me. I didn't say Rowan. My only complaint is Super Shane. Thank you for the pity laugh.
Is there another Rowan that we're not thinking of?
Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Mr. Bean.
Or Eric Rowan. Or wait, who's the other Rowan?
He is Eric Rowan.
No, I'm thinking of who's the Viking Raider?
Oh, Eric.
Rowe.
Just Eric.
Rowe.
Maybe yeah, you're right. Eric. Raymond Rowe is now, he's Eric, right? And
I think so.
And the former Hanson is Ivar.
I think so.
So stupid. My only complaint is Super Shane. Does he always have to have the upper hand? I'm not a fan and really don't ever need to see any energy put into his push. I hope after Sunday he goes away for a while. There are too many talented wrestlers like Buddy Murphy, Ali, and Finn Balor. Well, after Sunday, Ali got beat clean tonight. Finn Balor's going away, and Buddy Murphy was just, cannon fodder tonight. Table. So yeah. I wouldn't be putting my my stock in those three as the as big priorities in the near future. Don't get good matches on TV or at pay-per-views. He actually calls them pay-per-views. Let's let somebody else have a turn after Shane. All right.
Well, it seems seems as though they are kind of culminating with the removal of Shane McMahon inevitably at the due to Kevin Owens. I mean, that's
I just think they're going to stretch it out, but I do feel they're like that's been the whole basis of Kevin Owens is this guy takes up television time. So in theory, he's going to rid SmackDown of Shane McMahon.
In theory.
Yep. In theory.
Paul from New Jersey says, a rather pedestrian go-home show tonight. Charlotte and Trish sounded weird. Still looking forward to that match, though. Totally fine with Black and Zayn happening tonight. I like the women's tag title match last night. This match would probably get lost on a massive pay-per-view card, so I like it. Also, Ember looks like a bit of a dork, eh? Yeah. She kind of does.
Hasn't been a strong build for that one. Jalen from Pickering only managed to catch the ending. Once again, I found it weird. Essentially, Buddy Murphy's first segment on TV made him look like a punk, although I guess it can lead to something in the long run. Roman looked good, but the reveal came off as odd. There was minimal reaction from Bryan and Rowan, and it feels like a reveal you'd have 2 or 3 weeks before a pay-per-view as opposed to a go-home show. Yeah, in the final segment, going into the show. You have no idea if this match is happening or not.
No, I mean, I'm really kind of... We'll see how much they explain online in the next few days, but yeah, I would certainly not do the match at this point. Like I think you can, like you suggested yesterday, John, just tease some type of confrontation, and that to me is enough of a hook.
And if Reigns and Joe have like they fight together, I think the audience will really get into that moment of the two like working together, and it's at least something you give them. There's a representation on the show. We have an update from Rowan, from Roman Reigns. Looks like I had to beat a confession out of Buddy Murphy. I'll have no problem beating an explanation and an apology out of you, Eric Rowan.
Great. So clearly they're still teasing the mystery. They're deep in the midst of it. It's hard for me to think that they would go right from this to a Roman versus Bryan match right on Sunday.
Maybe they're going to do Roman and Rowan, which would be fun for the announcers to call.
Oh, great. And then, throw in Eric Rowan there as well. We got a Jay from Colorado who says, do you ever have those dreams where you get into a fight with someone and no matter how hard you try to throw a punch, they seem to land soft? Every time I see Shane McMahon, I never have that dream.
I've never heard of a dream like that, but man, maybe in Colorado. Maybe.
It's the altitude. Every time I see Shane McMahon throw his punches, it makes me think of those dreams.
Well, I have nightmares when I watch those, so not dreams. And finally, our favorite, Neil from Northern Ireland.
Oh.
As a Sami Zayn fan, I hate his current role as a heel who poses zero threat. That match didn't even help Aleister Black, who gains very little with a comprehensive win over a guy everyone knows hasn't won a singles match in forever. At least they got it out of the way tonight. In general, I felt the show was pacey, but parts seemed slightly off, almost as though it had been completely rewritten just before going to air. Yeah, we should make mention of that Dave Meltzer had a report that there was a lot of reworking to this show, apparently, in the hours leading up to the show, which...
Is that unusual at this point?
It's not all that unusual that they're making changes, even when the show is starting and they're making changes throughout. I kind of just watch the show in a vacuum, and if it's a good show, I don't give a shit if it's being written on the fly. I don't care if it was written 5 weeks ago. I don't care if it was written an hour ago. It's not me that's sitting down and writing these shows. I just look at what's the end product. And if it's a strong show, then I really don't care what the process was of putting that show together. Tonight's show, I thought it was a really weak ending, and it could have been one of those angles that I think you played up a lot more of, like the mystery. I just thought it was a very flat ending to the show. As a build up for SummerSlam, I thought it was moderate. There were the elements we went through that I liked. Is that everything? I think so.
That's it for feedback.
All right. Well, let's take a look at what's going on. And everything gets started in the city on Wednesday. There's going to be 3 different shows going on, one of which you and I will be at, Way. We're going to be at the OWE show. So there's the series of shows that are happening at the Midtown Event Center. It's a bunch of shows with kind of Smash Wrestling promoting all of these under this umbrella, with Progress coming over, WXW. We've got the Summit on the weekend. So lots of shows happening. That's up just north of Yonge and Eglinton.
And by the way, for people who want to follow along with this schedule, you can go to postwrestling.com, and under our menu, you could just look for the SummerSlam button and click the button. And you have John's complete list of all the events happening in the city.
So the OWE show, which I need to update this. I thought it was at 3 o'clock. Doors are at 3. The show is at 4 p.m.
I can do that now.
Okay. You're the man, Way. Shima and Christopher Daniels will be taking on Private Party. Our guest recently, Buck Gunderson, will be taking on Sonny J. I'm going to die on some of these pronunciations, Way.
I think it's pronounced Zai.
Zai?
Yeah, close enough. But he might pronounce it a completely different way. So we shall find out.
Brandon Cutler is taking on Bolo Fung. Dark Order is taking on T-Hawk and El Lindemann. Speedball Mike Bailey versus Gao Jingjia.
That's pretty good, actually.
Is that okay?
Yeah, very good.
And let me try this one. Sammy Guevara versus Alexander James.
I think you nailed that one.
Perfect. Your favorite, Sammy Guevara, you're going to get to see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of AEW representation on this show between the Dark Order, who are Smash, regulars, Private Party, Chris Daniels, Shima. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a lot of the OWE representation here. People such as T-Hawk and El Lindemann and Gao Jingjia, which I really have not seen that much of, other than, in highlight form and also, by reputation. So I look forward to this show a lot. I'm
looking forward to this show a lot. I think we're going to see a real mixture of guys, and should be a really fun show. Later that night, Demand Lucha is putting on Puma King's Lucha Vacation, with Puma King taking on Carter Mason. Other people on that show include Ethan Page, Joey Ryan, Rory Gulak, the brother of Drew Gulak, and Ophidian versus Mantequila. So that is happening at the Opera House, which used to stage the Ring and Ears shows way back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which I never got out to those shows, but they were essentially these concept shows that featured live pro wrestling while you had bands playing at the same time, which I always thought was like a cool mix that would really work for wrestling. Live music with wrestling going on at the same time, but I guess obviously not, because you don't really see that all that often.
Yeah, I've never been to one of those either. They sounded really interesting. Well, you can always listen to headphones while you're watching the show.
That's true. You can always do that. And then Wednesday night features the Smash Wrestling versus Progress Wrestling show at the same place as OWE, the Midtown Event Center. So this lineup has Walter versus Kevin Bennett.
Yeah.
A match I never expected I was going to see. Walter versus Kevin Bennett. Depending on, I don't know what we're doing after OWE, but if we end up sticking around in this area, who knows? If it works out, maybe I'll pop into the show.
It looks like a strong show. Yeah,
it does. Tony Storm is taking on Jody Threat. Trent Seven is taking on Psycho Mike. Then you've got Sebastian Suave, Danny Garcia, Idris Abraham, who is just on Raw Monday night, and Joe Coleman, they are Halal Beefcake, are taking on David Starr, Chris Brooks, Travis Banks, and Paul Robinson. Plus, Jordan Devlin versus Tarek, and Aussie Open versus Tyson Dukes and Brent Banks. That's a really fun card.
Yeah, really strong. Really strong.
Thursday has WXW Ambition, where they're going to be doing a tournament on that show. With it'll be an 8-man tournament with first-round matches between Walter and Speedball Mike Bailey.
This is a shoot-style wrestling, by the way.
Yeah. This is their Ambition-style show. Bobby Guns versus Daniel McCabe. Danny Garcia versus Al Ani. Timothy Thatcher versus Alexander James. And then in a super fight, Tyson Dukes versus Yuki Ishikawa.
I really want to see that. Yuki Ishikawa is, of course, of Battle Arts fame, who I believe still is a head trainer at Battle Arts, Santino Morella's school.
I believe so.
But Battle Arts, the original Battle Arts in Japan. So getting to see him in a shoot-style match with Tyson Dukes, of all people, in Toronto. I really wish I could make this show, but this is in the midst of the hangout, so I don't think we'll be able to catch it.
Then Thursday night, it's there's 4 shows going on Thursday night. Greektown has their show Hot Wired happening at 310 Danforth Avenue. Highlights of that include our friend RJ City versus Rhino. Actually, RJ City is booked on 2 shows at the same time, so he's going to be probably early on one show, late on the other. Sexy Eddie is on this show. Space Monkey, Joey Ryan versus Allison Kay, and Channing Decker versus Necro Butcher. Necro Butcher will be on the Danforth.
In Toronto? Goddamn.
Yeah,
wow.
On the same weekend as Taste of the Danforth as well.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. I imagine. Wow. I'm sure he'll be sampling. He's the butcher during the Taste of the Danforth.
It's amazing. He was destined for this event. RJ City is taking on Rhino, by the way. And then at the same time, Progress is going to be going down at the Midtown Event Center. This has Walter and Paul Robinson for the Unified World title. Travis Banks versus Jordan Devlin. Aussie Open against Dark Order against The Butcher and The Blade.
Yeah, which
David
is the guy from the band.
Pepper Parks and...
the guy from the band, Every Time I Die.
Yes. Name's escaping me. I'm going to kick myself. Tony Storm versus Holodead and Trent Seven versus Eddie Kingston are all on that Progress show.
Andy Williams.
Andy Williams, yes. Kingdom James is running the Union of Professional Independent Wrestlers show, the Never Say Never card, which has Kingdom against Kevin Blackwood in the main event. Josh Alexander's on that show. RJ City versus Space Monkey is on the Union show. And then Super Kicked Live is running a secret show at 9 p.m. It's a Super Kick versus Freelance Wrestling card. Maybe Scrump's going to be on that Freelance card.
Well, he is in town. We know that.
We can confirm he will be in town by Thursday night.
Has he packed his penis outfit? We don't know.
He's a freelance legend, so
and
maybe he'll be on the Freelance show.
And it's a TBA location, TBD location.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So anyway, those are the first 2 nights, and maybe on the Hangout we'll go through some more. Friday's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows. There's just so much going on this weekend. It's crazy.
It's a lot, yeah. I'm really curious to know how many of the audience that's in local to Toronto that's listening to us right now. What shows are you guys going to? Are these shows even on your radar? Because even somebody like me, John, I really haven't heard too much about a lot of these shows. I didn't know Tony Storm was in town. I barely knew Walter was in town. I guess I kind of expected, but I didn't really know a lot of this beyond, I think, what the WWE offering is. So what's on your radar? What are you guys excited to see?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my lineup, there's some interesting matches happening that no one is aware of.
Bull Nakano is in town.
Bull Nakano is in town doing a meet and greet Saturday morning at the Met. Josh Alexander and Michael Elgin are taking on Trent Seven and Tyler Bate on a Destiny show on Friday night. That's just the kind of stuff that's going on. So it's some interesting talent lineups throughout all of this. So we're going to be getting out to several shows ourselves, so we hope to see many people. And yeah, I would love to hear feedback of what you're going to check out. And if you do go to any shows, please send along any live reports or notes. We'd love to hear from any of you that are attending some of these shows, especially if you're going to some of the non-wrestling shows. Dolph Ziggler's doing a show. Mick Foley's doing a show. Sami Zayn's doing an improv show.
Wow, okay.
You know who I want him to bring up as his guest to do improv with? Aleister Black. Oh, my God.
That would be amazing. Yes.
All right. That's going to wrap up the show. Is there anything else to go over, Wai, before we sign off?
No.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. We'll be back Thursday at 3 p.m. with the Cafe Hangout. Actually, we'll be back with the G1 show on Wednesday, so disregard all that. We'll talk to you in a few hours. Bye.
And I'm going to SmackDown.